All right. Well, welcome. We're going to have introductions with everyone because we've got some new members and some lingering members and some medium-term members. So I'll start, and then our format for today is, this is the topic of CSP. What is it? How does it benefit us? We have experts today in our own chapter from Bill Staten and Linda Keith to walk us through their experiences in earning their CSP, give us some insider tips. And then finally, we're going to end with, now what do we do? How many of us are on track for this year, next year, the year after? And how often can we help each other, and how often do we need to meet and form this group? So with that, I'm Denise Gable. I'm your can-doologist. I'm also your outgoing president. So just 2 more meetings for the chapter, and we shall introduce a new slate of candidates, of which we have Celine is here today, already on the board on the next slate, and John Downey. You'll meet John Downey. John is stepped forward, and he's on the slate of candidates that you'll see later this month. So I've been a member of NSA 5 years. And I've done a lot of public speaking in my corporate job, but I certainly never started tracking it for something I didn't know about called the CSP. So I'm anxious to hear more about blending some of this corporate work that I did with the requirements. And I haven't started a thing on CSP other than in e-speakers. Bill was kind enough to coach me to make sure that little box was checked. So any of the gigs that I have been doing the last 18 months have been recorded through e-speakers. So that's about all I know about CSP other than my homework, and it scared me. So Ron, you're up next.
So I know you all, and you know me. I'm Ron Rael, the High Road Institute. I've been a member of NSA since, let's see, 1993. And I've always lusted after wanting to be a CSP. Just never quite met all the qualifications over the years. So I'm still interested in hopefully be able to do that before I hang up my speaking shoes.
All right, wonderful. And so Ron, you haven't really started anything either. Are you about square one where I am?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Let's see, let's go to Celine.
I am square 0 in the planning and dreaming mode, and I wanted to know what it is that I'm dreaming for, because I would like to get as many of those public speakers letters after my name. So here I am.
And how long have you been in our chapter, Celine?
2 years.
Okay, 2 years, dove right into board service. So just go get her. And then Laura.
I'm Laura, excuse me, Laura Leist with Eliminate Chaos. I have been in NSA for 19 years. I should have my CSP by now. I was very close back in 2010. And then I decided to do this little thing called become president of NAPO, of which it took all my time, and I did a lot of speaking, all for no money. And so then other things happened. I stopped doing a lot of speaking. So I'm kind of at about maybe square 2 and starting over. Not a lot of fun. And I know the rules have changed. I can't really tell you where I'm at right now because I haven't even looked at the rules. Yeah, anyway, that's where I'm at. But I would like the CSP behind my name besides the CPO that currently resides behind my name. I think the CSP is better than the CPO.
More letters.
Yeah, I don't care how many letters. Those are the letters I would like.
Okay.
How about you, John?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, everything froze. I wasn't sure if you guys could see me. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. My name's John. Thanks for the introduction, Denise. As she mentioned, I'm really new to NSA in general, and specifically the NSA Northwest chapter. I think I'm on month 2 now, or almost on month 2 now. Long corporate background. I did a ton of public speaking for my corporate background, especially in my last kind of 5 years of corporate, in front of reasonably large audiences, like 500 to 1,500 people. And so I have a fair amount of experience in public speaking, never for my own gig. And that's what happened about 1.5 years ago. I went out and started my own firm. We do strategic advisory work and executive leadership development. And so this is going to be a part of the main focus of the type of speaking that I want to do. I'm on square zero in terms of public speaking as a business or as a marketing tool. So I'm here to learn. If I can offer advice, I will, but I'm guessing in this form, I'm probably not going to be able to offer advice. So.
All right, welcome.
Thank you.
And then we have some others who have passed the test and earned their CSP, including their CPAE, Mr. Bill Staten.
Yeah, hi. I've been a member of NSA since, I don't know, 2000, 2001, somewhere around there. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I got my 20-year pin, so somewhere in there. And yeah, that's how I've earned my living for the past 20 years. My background was television, but I've been a keynote speaker for the last 20 some years. And I was late getting to my CSP, actually. I was one of those who was relatively well known nationally at NSA. I'd been a chapter president and everything. And people kept saying, wait, you're not a CSP yet? It finally got to be embarrassing for me. That's why I finally just thought, okay, I'm going to get it. Because I always thought, well, I've got 29 Emmys. Who needs a CSP? I've got, come on, 29 Emmys, beats a CSP. Well, but, it got embarrassing. So I thought, okay, let's just get the CSP. So I did, and I'm very, very, very glad that I did for a number of reasons, which we'll talk about a little later.
Awesome. And while we're still helping John learn some of these acronyms, tell us more about CPAE.
Oh, that's the Speakers Hall of Fame. I was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2019. That's this one here, which my sister, when she first saw me, like during the pandemic, and I kind of, curated this backdrop, she said, oh, look, you've got some of your Emmys there. That's nice. And then she said, what's that ugly one? Is that a bowling trophy? No, that's the pinnacle of my career. That's the Hall of Fame. Oh, really? Oh, that's the Emmys look nicer. Yeah, the Emmys do look nicer. But anyhow, CPAE is Hall of Fame.
It is a very coveted award, and it is very rare. I don't know how many of you there are, Bill. I would say 50, 60.
Oh no, there's around 200 of us worldwide.
Is there? Okay, worldwide. So,
but 3 of them are in our chapter, so that's pretty
we have
nice.
3 in our chapter.
Yeah, we've got 3 in our chapter, and for a relatively small chapter, that's a pretty good percentage. Just myself, past national president Anna Layata, and past national president Brian Walter.
So when are you going to be president, Bill? Come on.
Ain't gonna well, Linda, as you know, they don't have presidents anymore, so that's just not.
Oh,
gonna
right.
happen.
When are you going to be? Well, you know what? Chairman of the board, I don't see you doing that. So, okay.
Don't want to.
He's off the hook. On the hook.
Yeah. I've got an automatic no for anything else NSA asks me for.
Well, I'm sure you've done tons. So
yeah.
Unless I call. So off the hook, Mr. Staten, and on the hook, Linda Keith.
Yes, so I joined in 1989, and at the time I joined, the whole idea of CSP was like so far beyond what I thought I would accomplish in any time soon. But actually 5 years later, I had it. Back then, it was 5 years was the period that you looked at it, but they didn't have 50,000 a year. It was an average, so it was possible to have a lower year, a higher year. And so my trajectory was strong enough that in 5 years I was able to achieve it. But also they didn't have a 10-year look back. It was only 6. So you can only have 1 year that you took a break to write a book or do something like that. So quite a few changes. Some of the tips I'll give you worked when I was getting it not necessarily when you will, but I got mine in 94. So have had it for quite some time. And in fact, a year ago in January, I sold the intellectual property of my company to my son, who has been working with me in my company for 10 years. So I'm still working as a subject matter expert for his company, which means I have, website breaks, not my department. Most of the stuff I don't want to do, not my department, but I am still involved in doing virtual and on-site training when I want to, however much I want to, and I negotiated the money. So I'm having a great time. And so the CSP still helps me.
So I think that's our first question as ground, 0 and 2. Say more about how it really helped you. It seems like a lot of work and paperwork to put it together and over a long run, and we'll talk about the details, but tell us, how has it really paid off for you as a speaker?
I'll tell you a couple things. Sorry, I started speaking before you raised your hand, and you got me faster than that. First of all, yes, a lot of paperwork, but as a member of NSA, you've got a free account with eSpeakers. eSpeakers makes the paperwork a snap.
Yes.
I mean, it really does. It used to be just an absolute headache because you do have to keep track of all these things. I mean, it is a lot. But eSpeakers, if you're not using eSpeakers, start using eSpeakers. Go ahead and back time, log all your stuff into eSpeakers as much as you can possibly remember, because then you just click a button, like really like one click, and boom, here's your CSP report. Oh, I'm a little light on this. Well, what if I include the, oh, okay, all right. So the benefits to me, and Lynn, I'll be curious to hear your experience also. It was not like I was hoping that all of a sudden you get your CSP and all of a sudden the phone just starts ringing like mad. It's not that. It did help with, it's kind of like the good housekeeping seal of approval. So it helps to have it. I think there are only 5 gigs that I can remember that I've got specifically, where they specifically asked about the CSP. I don't know how many gigs I got because I had it and the other guys, the other women, the other people didn't, that I wasn't told about. The biggest benefit for me, though, has been just the self-validation. Really, you get that. I mean, Laura, you know this because you're a certified planning professional, or a certified CPO. What is it? CPO? CO.
Professional organizer.
Professional organizer,
Which I don't even do anymore.
I know, but still, but we all know that, look, if you're serious about your profession, the people who are really serious about the profession, they get the designation. I mean,
Yeah.
Linda and Ron, you're CPAs. Now, obviously, that's a different level than a CSP. But if you want to show the world that you're serious about the profession, if get yourself one of these. This is the hallmark. This is like, this is what we do. This is, I don't know. It's but there's this great feeling when you finally, when you do get it, okay, it's not like you weren't anything before, but once you get it, there's just kind of this, you just walk a little differently. I don't know, Linda, what was your experience?
Well, kind of 2 things. One is that because I am a certified public accountant, my client base, by the way, is banks, financial institutions, and I train on tax return analysis and making good loan decisions. So it's a pretty technical kind of thing and a little intimidating to people. But so the fact that I was a CPA, people would not assume, and in fact might assume, you couldn't talk your way out of a paper bag, right? So the CSP actually balanced a perception from my other professional designation that might have actually been a negative for me. That was one. The second one, though, and the biggest one for me actually, was at National Speakers Association itself. At the time, there were CSP only sessions. But in addition to that, you walk up to somebody who is also a certified speaking professional, you immediately know something about their accomplishments. Very much like if I was walking up to someone who does accounting, and I'm a certified public accountant. Well, I don't know that they're not that quality. I don't know that. But if I have a CPA, I do know something about them. So we have plenty of people who are not CSPs that are high quality, but there's no quick way to go, okay, this is someone who's already accomplished, you know, some level of things. John, you're a great example. Actually, all three of you came up with this. Lots of experience, maybe speaking and all these things, but there's no way to tell, right, within NSA until we talk to you enough to go, oh, 5 years of, you know. So it's a shorthand way that people at NSA can recognize what you've accomplished, and therefore the conversations actually start at a higher level. They just do. And maybe more conversations start as well. And as to all the work you've done hard before, you guys, this idea, everybody talks about it, but come on. You know, it's just, especially with these speakers now, we didn't have it in 94. We had to send in copies of every contract, proof of payment. We sent in probably 3 or 4 notebooks because it was not digital at all. So now e-speakers, digital.
That was on horseback.
It was pretty much on horseback. Yeah, it was.
No,
So I just don't think I don't think it's that hard for the benefits that you get. I just don't.
You raised 2 really good points, Linda. First of all, when you're at an NSA event, especially a national event, if you're a CSP, NSA gets criticized, and I think fairly somewhat, and I think it's true for all organizations, of being a little cliquish, you know. But if you're a CSP, you get a higher level of conversation. It's kind of like a little badge of honor. It's like, oh, okay, come on in. And you know, maybe that's bad on NSA, but it's life. It's what's really there. But I love what you said about, you know, being a CPA, full stop. That they you know, they don't think you can speak. One of my good friends out of Denver is a guy named Carl Mecklenburg, who's in the NFL Hall of Fame, and he's a jock who speaks, and people just assume that he's not a good speaker. He said getting the CSP for me was groundbreaking. It was a game changer for me because people thought I'm a dumb, you know, he was a linebacker, like he's a big dumb football player. He's not dumb, he's wicked smart, but he said getting the CSP it's like, oh, okay. Like I said, the good housekeeping seal of approval for clients. They see that and they know it. Is it a guarantee? No, nothing's a guarantee, but it's still, you know, the odds are that, okay, this is somebody who knows what they're doing. They've been field tested. They're not a beginner. They know what they're doing. Not just they're good on stage, but they also have been around the block enough that if there's a tech problem, they've probably seen it before. If the microphone doesn't work, if there's a problem with the slides, if there's an emergency in the audience. I mean, Linda, I'm sure you have too. I've been in an audience where somebody has had a heart attack, you know, not necessarily because of what I said, but I can't rule that out. You know, a newbie, keep this in mind, when they give you a microphone, when they hire you, when they give you a microphone, they are giving you their trust. They're giving you their audience, and they're holding their breath, hoping that it works out, because sometimes their job is literally on the line. I mean, they are entrusting you with a big responsibility. So the question is, would you rather trust your taxes, somebody who says, oh, I can do taxes, or would you rather trust them to a CPA? You know, if you're gonna put this audience, I mean, John, you said you've been speaking for audiences of like 500 to 1,500. Those are big audiences. That's a lot of trust. And if they're going to give you 1,500 of their people, they want to have some kind of assurance aside from just your sizzle reel, which is 3 minutes showing that, okay, you've got a good 3 minutes, as long as it's edited and has a lot of, you know, cool music behind it. The CSP is I always refer to it as this is an insurance policy. You know, if you hire a CSP, it's at least you've got an insurance policy that we've been around the block once or twice.
Well, it's interesting because the two of us, Bill is primarily keynoter, I'm primarily training. But it's the very same thing. If I get 20 people for 2 days out of their deal flow, out of their office, sometimes traveling across the country to get to me, I had best deliver really strongly, because it's not just what they're paying me. That is actually chump change compared to the loss of all those people from their workflow, from their deal flow, because they're all in lending and credit, right? So for 2 days, I got them out of the office. I had best deliver. And again, anything they can see, in my case, both the CPA and the CSP, and then of course my reputation, all those things. But every step of the way, it's just a insurance policy that says, you know, this person is more likely than not to be able to pull this off and make it worth our investment of people and time and money.
Is there still, Linda, you kind of mentioned a gathering. Is there still a gathering at National? There is, isn't there? With CSPs and maybe CPAEs?
Yeah, isn't it? I assume they still have it. Is the CSP Summit?
They do.
And they
CSP CPAE Summit. It's happening in Orlando this year. Actually, this is the same venue that the convention is happening at, Influence, which is in July. I think. Yeah, and it's kind of an amazing event, kind of sort of. Linda, have you been to them?
I've been to at least one, maybe two.
Yeah, I've been to a few. They can be phenomenal and they can be terrible, and which is just because of the way it's formatted. It's weird. Like, you're assigned to a mastermind group, and if it's a great mastermind group, then you get huge value. I think they need to rethink that. But the point is, there are sessions at Influence, which is the name, which is NSA's name for the convention. You know, our national convention is called Influence. So there used to be, I think there still are, certain breakouts, certain tracks that are just like CSP, CPAE only, and then they do have the summit, which is a completely separate event. It's, you know, you've got to pay, you've got to register and go to it. But just like Linda, you said, you go to an event like that, and the conversation is a much higher level. I'll tell you, when I went to my first CSP CPAE summit, I breathed a huge sigh of relief, because it was the first NSA event I ever went to where the egos really were kind of checked at the door. You know, because you go to an NSA event, especially a national event, it's like, well, I did this many gigs this year, and we all exaggerate, and you're like, I am so great. It's just, you know, it's a bunch of egos, which it is, because that's what our business is. You know, look, we get up in front of audiences with microphones. You don't do that if you don't have an ego. But that event was the first one where, look, we're all at a certain level. We can be honest with each other now. Hey, this isn't really working for me. Is it working for you? Yeah, it is. Okay, well, how are you doing it? Those conversations don't happen below the CSP level. I mean, they don't routinely happen. I'm not saying they can't, but yeah, it is a different level of dialogue, and that may sound elitist, and it is. CSP is an elite, you know, it's an earned designation. I mean, you got to pay your dues.
The other thing about the summit, which I went to two, and the second one was 2019. I was in a mastermind group that was closer to disposing of your business. You know, are you ready to retire? How are you setting things up so you'd be able to sell or do whatever? And I was kind of humbled and astonished at how frank everyone was.
Yeah.
It was like, nothing we say in this room leaves the room. We all believe that and bought into it. And so people were saying things that if you saw them just at an SA normally, you would never guess. And we all, as far as I know, honored that. So it meant that even at CSP CPAE level, you could come out and say, you know what, this is not working for me.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what to do about it. And there was a bunch of that, and it was refreshing, and you learned a lot from other people's challenges as well as whatever challenge you brought to the table. Mine, I was asking about selling my business, and it was as a result of there that I realized I couldn't sell it in the way I thought I was going to. Just wasn't going to work. And I had two people in the room. Joel Block was one of them. Can't remember the name of the other guy, but people who really understood what would need to happen for me to sell the business. And they simply said, you're not going to be able to do it. You need to find a different way. So I did. I sold the intellectual property instead of the business.
Oh, I hope Barry Banther was in your group. He would be great for that. Or Bill Backrack.
Yeah, Barry, but neither of them were there. I didn't even know the other guy who it turned out had incredible expertise in that before that meeting.
Yeah.
But and once they took me aside, once we talked about why, I went, okay, that makes so much sense. So I'll just tell you, the business was growing too fast. And they said, you're not stable. So how are they going to assume they can grow it the way you're growing it? And also you're still too central to it.
Right.
Well, that was great to know, because I changed direction at that point, and I might not have done it and wasted a whole bunch more time thinking a different direction.
So I think what you're all hearing is that the CSP is not necessarily your ticket to a fuller calendar. I mean, it can help, and it certainly doesn't hurt. It can help. It's more about the community that you will now be a part of. And that can lead to all kinds of things. It can lead to a fuller calendar, because now you're kind of on the map, with NSA. It leads to conversations, which can lead to opportunities and new business ideas. And like, oh, wait, you're doing what with your key? Oh, that's cool. Or like, and partnerships that wouldn't normally have necessarily come your way. So it's not just about, let's get this medal that you can hang around your neck and frame or whatever. Mine's framed, it's back there someplace. Well, that's, you can see the corner of it there. That's, if I were to zoom out a little more, which I'm not, because then you'll see how messy the room really is, but there's a medal there, but it looks like this. So, but it really is, it's so much of it is about the community and the sense of, okay, I'm the real deal.
Well, once you earn your CSP, and we're about to dive into the actual nuts and bolts. And Linda, when I talked to you some time ago, leading up to this, you had some good ideas about growing the number of presentations and things that you did. And when you earn that CSP, provided you make your application, you're selected, do you pay an annual fee to keep it up, or have to reapply, or is it a one and done?
You do have to, I think it's every 5 years you've got to reapply up to a certain age, which I think Linda and I have hit.
I'm not
So
reapplying, but
we no longer have to, but you've got to do it at least once. Like no matter what age you are, you've got to I think it's, was it $500? Was it $300?
but we reapply also didn't mean you report a bunch of stuff.
Oh, no. It's just,
you basically
look,
just said, yes, I'm still in this category.
yes, I'm still in this category. Here's my check for $300 or whatever. And it's like, it's 5 years, like it's every 5 years up until you're 60 or so. And then that's it. But yeah, so it's, yeah.
Okay. And I think in my homework, I think it's $375 for your application.
You knew the answer, Denise. You're setting us up to look stupid.
No, I knew the answer to the one and done. I have no idea for the lingering costs.
Okay.
Yeah, no, $375 is what I saw for your first application, but I didn't know if you ever pay, and you knew the answer.
Yeah, you pay a little bit, but not much.
A little bit,
and
yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's just start asking some questions. There's a requirement, like you said, I think you can look at a 10-year period, and you can select 5 of those years.
And I don't think they have to be consecutive anymore, do they?
I
don't believe
they used to have to be, like, I think when I got mine, they had to be consecutive.
Yeah.
Okay, so they don't have to be consecutive. And in each one of those years, you must earn $50,000.
At least.
At least. That's your minimum.
You could earn more.
You could earn more. And it had a nice list of things that were like, good try, but no. I don't recall that list, but those aren't included. I mean, it was speaking.
It's also $50,000 from speaking in some way, shape, or form, correct?
Yes. So how do we bridge this, John and I and Celine, with some of your background too, and then Laura. Ron, how do we bridge all of this work that we've done in corporate? And, you know, we'll pick on John. He's just literally coming out of corporate.
Right.
So how do we bridge that in our application?
It's
So there's specific information for that in the application. I glanced at the rules couple, you know, when you asked me to do this, so I don't have this memorized, but I believe you looked at your salary and you looked at what percentage of your time are you
Exactly
doing
right.
presentations. You'd still, I'm sure, John, have to backtrack and be able to say these were the presentations. So I think if you haven't kept it that way, there might be some work to that. But I think it's a matter of percentage of your salary. Does that sound right, Bill?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I was on the CSP committee, the National CSP committee, when they kind of figured this stuff out, but that was a while back. But yeah, you basically kind of amortize from your let's say your base salary is $100,000, just to make the math easy. And okay, 20% of that time was speaking for the company. Okay, well then $20,000 of that was speaking. So yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's how it works. That you can.
This is the best question, John.
Oh, good.
We can
Good.
do it. What?
Okay, I'm going to add to that because this gets into what Denise and I talked about how you look at things. In my company, the time I spend on a presentation actually presenting it is maybe a third of the time I spend preparing, researching, upgrading materials, whatever. So if I were going for my certified speaking professional designation now, and if I had this issue of corporate having done programs for that, I think I would look at what percentage of my time was involved in the presentations or in the preparation for them. In other words, I would be somewhat liberal in looking at that because, and frankly, you might even consider travel. If you're doing a bunch of international travel, you got to get there, you got to get back. So I'd have to look closer to be sure that I wasn't, way off the rails here. But, and if you're making so much money that it doesn't matter, okay. But if you're trying to maximize from, from those, I would be looking at probably more than just time on stage.
I think that's really good advice, Linda. Give yourself the benefit, like when in doubt, give yourself the benefit of the doubt, because here's the thing, NSA National, they want you to get the CSP. Like they're coming from, and even though it may not seem this way sometimes, they're coming from the point of view that we want you to get it unless it's so wrong that we can't give it to you. It's not like, okay, here's the bar, you've really got to hit up here to get there. That's the CPAE. CSP is like, yeah, I mean, we want you to have it. So unless you've really screwed something up, as long as the numbers are there, there's no reason not to give it to you. I don't think I phrased that very well at all. That's what you get from a Hall of Fame speaker. The
reason for the numbers at all was actually, and I've also been on the CSP Council at National at some other time, but the reason here is we're trying to identify who are professional speakers who have had the breadth of experience, who have enough time on stage, who understand preparation and customizing, and in the case of training, it's a little different deal. And so we came up with the dollars and the number of presentations and the years and so forth, just to try to come up with what's a model that would work. And in fact, as virtual training came on, we had to change the model again. There was a point where if you had, you couldn't have more than something like 15% virtual. Well, then the pandemic hit, that didn't make sense at all. So we've continually adjusted it to try to continue to simply say, if you met this criteria, then you would be demonstrating that expertise and that depth of knowledge that the certified speaking professional is designed to connote.
And it used to be only, I think it changed the year before I got mine, something like that, where it used to be only a quantitative measure. where like, as long as the numbers are there, you're in. Now they do have the qualitative measure of a video, which is voted on by, I think, is it 5 people, 3 of whom you can select and 2 of which are selected by the committee or something from among other CSPs or something. So there is, because there was, not in Linda's case, but there were cases where people somehow got their CSP and they just weren't that good on stage. Somehow they got, now Linda is, but somehow they got it and thought, okay, we got to figure this out. So now you do have to submit a video also, and enough people have to look at it and go like, okay, yeah, this is CSP quality. This is like, I would be proud to have this person in the in the club.
What's interesting too, Bill, is that there was one time I've done some of the video review for the CSP group,
right,
from time to time. And there was one where it was a last minute, I was asked to do it because the CSP candidate was a trainer, and the keynoter that was asked to do it said, I really don't know how to assess a trainer.
Right.
Because a trainer has
good on
more
that
time to
keynoter, by
build
the way, for
things
saying
up.
that.
What now? Yeah, it is.
Good on that keynoter for saying, hey, I'm not the person to be judging this.
Because it's just a different animal. And
Yeah.
sure enough, I was able to give him a good pass. Now, I've also more than once not given them a good enough score to get it.
Yeah, I have too.
But when that happens, usually, in fact, at least with one of them, I found out later that when they were told, they said, yeah, I knew it wasn't a good video. They just.
There were 1 or 2 that I have not given passing scores to, but I've applauded them as they walked across the stage and gotten their CSP. So apparently I was a tougher grader than some of the others.
Well, right, because if you don't pass, then they pick up some more people to review it. So I used to think it was 4, but in any case, if you don't have 3 of the 4 or 3 of the 5, whatever it needs to be, then they will actually, at least back when I was doing it, they'll pull in a couple more reviewers just to be sure that it wasn't just, one person that's having a bad day or didn't know how to assess a trainer or whatever. So, and then if they can't pass that, but they passed everything else, regularly, they'll actually just come back the next year. They'll send in a video that more represents what they do. If that video, I think one of the ones that I didn't give a good score to, it just sounded like one big book report. I just wasn't hearing anything original, and they kept referring to other people and I just thought, well, that's not CSP quality that you can stand up and say what other people say. So that was one of the ones that I said, I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
So what questions do you all have specifically?
Linda, I want to make sure that the training that we give count also as hours for CSP. For example, in my business, I speak to get customers in. I coach group of 5, 10, 14 for 7 weeks. So that training that I deliver, does it count as public speaking for the CSP?
So first of all, if you speak for marketing, I do know there's some rule about same day sales count. So some people will speak for free at an association, but they'll have back of the room sales or whatever. They have to be same day, as I understand it. So that tries to accommodate it. If what you are saying, Celine, is you never charge for your speaking at all, and you hope out of that you get like coaching clients or consulting clients, that is a challenge, because that is no fee. There's no fee there.
Right.
It also used to be that you couldn't have under 15 people to even count a training. Well, I had a client that would fly me to New York City, do the whole training that I always do for 7 people. I didn't just sit around and chat, right? I still did the thing. So sometimes the rules are such that they don't fit very well for your model. But Celine, here's what I suggest you look at. First of all, again, I could be wrong about the rules as they are now. But if you look at the rules as they are now and you'll go, okay, what I'm doing is not working, but what if instead of making it free for those 7 weeks,
it's not free. The 7 weeks is when they pay.
They pay at the end of 7 weeks?
You pay $2,500 to be part of a 7-week program where you meet 90 minutes per week, but everybody sitting in that 7-week program for 90 minutes, they pay.
I think she's asking, are the supplemental sessions considered a speaking engagement, or is it just the first one?
I think that's a question for the committee, because Linda and I are not current on the rules. Trust me, and Linda, you know this because you've been on the committee, I've been on the committee. The committee is used to getting calls from people, and I don't know who the designee, I don't know who the staff person is at
The
NSA.
staff person is going to take the calls, yeah.
Yeah, we'll take the calls, and you can say, look, here's my exact situation, and they can guide you more on that. I think anything that any advice we might offer you is likely to be obsolete or incorrect. So I think for specific and highly specialized situations, I think you need to reach out to National. And
as
ask
Bill
them
said, they
specific-
want you to get it, so they'll find a way, usually find a way, or be a little creative to do it.
Well, and
Not
I'm
always, though.
thinking
In fairness, not
maybe-
always. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
not always.
it could be bad news, but
Well, doesn't it have to, isn't there a length of a meeting to count? It has to be at least how long? Does anybody know on the current rules?
I don't know. And I think
And
there's
so
something
you're saying that each one is only 19 minutes, is that right?
90, I think she said.
Oh, 90 minutes. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking 4,500 divided by, what did you say, 7 weeks, 90-minute programs. I would consider that a fee for 9 different or however many different programs. I try to figure out how can I write the contract so it shows that that's what's happening. To give you an example, I was hired to go back to Pennsylvania to Egghead Discount Software, so you know how long ago that was.
Wow.
And they had staff, their warehouse workers, or were going to participate in a quality circle kind of thing where they were going to make recommendations and such. And management understood that those folks had no clue about budgeting. So in order to have them make recommendations that maybe might make sense, they wanted to give them a little something on budgeting, but a bunch of them also did not have their high school degree. So to even get anything on budgeting, they'd need to have a little something on math, right? So here's what we had. We had 3 shifts at their warehouse. I did 2 hours before each of the 3 shifts on some math stuff. I did 2 hours before their shift the next day on the budgeting. Question to you, how many presentations is that? Try again, Celine. I'm not hearing you, Denise. You're muted.
Well, I'm not doing the fast math, but it's greater than 2, probably because of the way that you wrote that agreement that you would have and host that many sessions.
Now, the rule at the time, so again, rules could have changed, but the rule at the time was different audience or different topic is a different presentation. So it was
Right.
definitely 3 audiences because it was 3 different shifts for sure. I did write up the contract because I knew by then the rules to be 2 different programs, because it really was. One was sort of the number piece of it, and then the other one was budgeting. But I could have called it one thing done over 2 days, and then somebody might have said, oh, I don't know that that's 2 presentations. So I was aware from the get-go as I started doing this that I want to be clear on different topic, different audience, that's 6. And even the training that I did for the 2-day training that I did, one day is on 1040 and fundamentals, the other day is advanced business returns. I always counted that as 2 separate presentations, even if it was the same group, because different topic. So Celine, I'm just thinking there might be a creative way, especially once you talk to staff to understand your situation, that you change the way you say what you're doing, because you're charging 4,500 for 7 or whatever it is, 90-minute presentations. Well, why the heck isn't that 7? Right? So I kind of feel like it should be able to be that way, but you got to think about it, understand the rules, and then apply the rules in a way that makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Does that help?
John, you had a question?
Yeah, this might be a dumb question, I don't know, but do TV interviews count?
I don't think they do.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I just thought I'd ask. So, okay.
The issue is an interview format is the problem,
The
right?
interview format's the problem. That's what you said.
Right, because you're just talking back and forth, right? And
Right.
somebody's asking you questions. Again, though, John, I would just be looking at that and going, if I have an opportunity for an interview, and it also could be the number of minutes. So
Yeah.
I think that we have to have some number of minutes. Don't know what it is, but I'm guessing it's longer than a TV bite. But once again, if I was invited to do like a podcast or something like that, I would think about if they'd say, oh, we'd just like to interview you. You might look at that and go, how about this? Let me do a 15-minute or whatever it has to be presentation for you, and then let's break out to Q&A. Maybe that second way of doing it counts, whereas the first way of doing it would not count.
Okay.
But I think, John, you kind of realize the answer. It's got to kind of pass the smell test. Okay, the CSP is certified speaking professional for, and it designates your ability to get on a, strap on a microphone, hold a microphone, and be compelling in front of an audience. Okay, does that sound like a presentation, like being interviewed on TV? Does that sound like a presentation? No, it doesn't. You haven't been paid to deliver content, really.
That's the
So,
key.
now, going back to what Linda was saying about figuring out, okay, what really counts. When I was getting my CSP, for one of the years, I did not have the requisite number. I think you had to have like 65 gigs a year, or whatever. Or maybe it was a total of like 250 something, and I was coming up short. And the person who was in charge of it, the guy who was the chair of the committee at the time, was a friend of mine. And I said, hey, I don't think I'm going to make it. He said, well, think about this. Like, if you did a keynote and then in the afternoon did a breakout session, that's not 1 gig, that's 2 gigs. That counts as 2 gigs. And if you also emceed, I said, yeah, I'm not sure if I did. And he said, maybe I shouldn't say this while the recording's on. He said, I think if you look really carefully, you'll find out that you have enough. I think if you look really closely at your calendar, you'll find out that you have enough. Like, are you sure you didn't do some MC work there? Are you sure? So it's like they want you to get it, but again, it's about giving yourself the benefit of the doubt. Let them question you about it. This is not the IRS, or this is not a fully funded IRS that can do like a full audit. They're not going to be doing that. They're going to randomly spot call a few of your clients. So, they're not doing forensic accounting with this. I'm not saying lie, not while the recording's on. But I am saying give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Like, if you think, I'm not sure if this is 1 gig or does it count as 2, put it down as 2. If they have a question about it, they'll let you know. But give yourself the benefit of the doubt.
And Bill's comment, often we think, oh, I did an association thing. And we don't realize, yeah, but we did 2 different breakouts.
Right.
With 2 different topics and 2 different audiences. So unless you're thinking that way, you might be shorting yourself just because you're not counting things that you absolutely can count. And I did not know the IRS was fully funded. That's news.
No, I said back when it was fully funded. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is, there's a rule that, you can't have really low paid gigs to like pad it. Well, when I was on the council, we talked about that. And here's the thing. There are times when we take low paid gigs as basically a marketing thing, right? Or as something for the banking association, which is the industry that I support, or whatever it is. So if you can see you're going to be short, consider what are some things that I would like to do anyway that may be low paid, but have a marketing value so that I have a reason to have done something for 500 instead of 5,000, whatever it is. And if there are a few of those in there, that's not going to axe your application. And that may be the thing that gets you. So you get to the 5th year and you're looking at, shoot, I'm going to be short 5. And you realize this in July, either go book some more stuff or go back to the folks you're doing keynotes for and say, by the way, I have a new breakout session that might be perfect for this group. And even if you do it for free for the fee you're already doing, it.
Yeah,
you're
let me offer a
getting paid.
counterpoint to that though, because I tried that with a different result.
Oh, tell me.
Because when I was a few short, I thought, okay, I just need gigs, and they say they have to be paid. That's all it said, had to be paid. I didn't read closely enough. So what I did was I got a list of all the chambers of commerce within 20 miles of me. And I said, I will do a presentation. Here's the trick though. You have to pay me $20.
Oh,
You've got to pay me $20.
don't give
so
me dinner. Pay me 20
I
bucks,
ended up
I'm
doing
in.
like 40 of them in a month. Like I was just going all over the doing these things, and I submitted everything, and they got back to me and said, we can't accept any of these because it looks like you're trying to pad it out. I said, well, yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do, but you just said a paid fee. They said it's got to be commensurate because your average fee has been, 5 figures, and now you got all these $20 things. It's too obvious. So you've got to be a little careful about it. If it's too obvious that that's what you're trying to do, then they will come back, or at least in my case they did.
Well, the other thing is, Bill, yours were all like right at the end.
Exactly. They were all like 1 month. So it was pretty
Probably
obvious.
not $20, but if you have a practice of doing things for your local community for a lesser amount, and you do that kind of on a more regular basis,
Then
and
it is
you're doing
commensurate with what
years,
you've typically been
then
charging.
it is. It's
Yeah.
more like what you do, and there's a business reason for it. I like to not travel. I like to support the education system, which is why, I do these things, whatever it is.
Right.
Then it makes more sense than, gee, I've got 40 things right at the end for 20 bucks each.
Right.
Linda, did you tell me that you hosted some of your own events?
Oh, yeah,
Or
that was part of my business model, though. That was
Oh,
exactly
okay.
what my company was. So my company at the time, I did open enrollment, public programs where banks would send people. And I did this 3 times a year in 5 cities on the West Coast. And we did direct mail to every bank and credit union on the West Coast. And that actually was the business model. We got money from those. So it wasn't just for marketing. We actually made money most of the time. There were a few times when Bill said to my husband, Bill, said, so you're going out to market again, huh? Because the money we're bringing in was less than the travel and the motel and all the stuff, right? But it also was the outbound marketing for all in-house training. So, because these guys are getting this flyer twice, 3 times a year, they get 2 flyers. So when they finally did need me for what they go, wait, who's that lady that we keep getting the flyers? So that was actually my business model.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was interesting because back then, I don't know how they do it now, they would count the revenue from the day as your fee. Well, excuse me, I'm paying travel, I'm paying printing, I'm paying shipping. None of those costs counted against it. It was just wrong the way they were doing it, but it worked to my favor because, of course, I got to count full revenue.
All right. And how about Laura? It sounds like you have a ton of presentations that you did for free. Are those just right into the trash can for this CSP process?
Yeah.
Because she wasn't paid. If she'd been a paid person with NAPO, then you could have done something. But she was a volunteer she was their president.
So I have been paid by NAPO to speak at a conference as a session presenter.
Okay.
But for about 3 years, I flew all over. I visited all the chapters and I spoke. And I mean, I forget how many chapters we have, and none of that could count.
Right.
And so during those years, like my business really took a hit because, well, I should say my speaking took a hit. My business was fine because I have a team. But that was like, I had been doing so much speaking where I was really on track at one point in time. And then kind of got near the end where I probably could have applied, and it just it wasn't going to work, and then I didn't really try, and I was really frustrated. And then someone else had told me, and I'm sure this will be a question where you say, go ask the committee. But someone told me, because I do so much training of my own team, that they thought I could count those trainings, because I do like one of those a month. Now, here's the thing. Like, I'm going to use Lisa Copeland as an example, because she might have been the one that told me this, but, you know, she used to work for a company where she was employed by the company. They paid her salary and she spoke. And so she was constantly out there speaking, where she didn't really have to find the speaking gigs, right? Like, she got paid to speak. And so getting the CSP for her, you know, might have been a little easier than like if you're just running your own business, having to get your own speaking engagement. So it might have been her that mentioned this, but the thing is because I have a team and I am paid by my company to, like, I get a salary from my company, should I be entitled to have those trainings count for my team? And I've never been able to get a straight answer on that.
How many people are in the trainings, Laura?
On my team?
Yeah, well, whoever's attending the training, how many?
Well, usually about 10. So if it's still under the,
did you actually track that?
I could go back and look at my calendar and pull every single one off.
Does anybody know if there is a minimum number these days to have in a training for it to count?
I know it used to be 15.
It used to be 15.
Yeah.
I do not know what it is now, but that's going to be your challenge, Laura, I think, is that when it's under 15, the only reason you can't count it is because it's under 15, not because you did it as an employee of your company.
Mhm.
So if you have any of those that were over 15, if you know the numbers and any of them are over 15, then we're back to John's original question, which was kind of, how do I count? Now, this is what I get paid by my company. I do this weekly, you know, how do I count what percentage of my pay comes from that? And Laura, I don't know if you have an S Corp or what, but, you know, with my company, I had an S Corp, so I had my wages, but I also had my profit from the S Corp. And so you would actually put those two things together and then figure out what percentage of your time prep and doing the training, you know, would count. But I think you got to find out about the number of people that are required.
Yeah, and I had years ago gone to Cara, is it Stiletto? When
Cara
she was
Stiletto.
when she was at NSA.
Stiletto, yeah.
And we had all this back and forth, and I had my CSP Excel tracking sheet, and she's like, well, that's going to be a question for the committee. And no one could give me the same answer. And so you can kind of see why I just sort of gave up, because it's just really convoluted. And my business model, first of all, is very different from most speakers because I employ a large team, but I also speak. And my speaking right now is still primarily training, which doesn't really matter, but that is primarily the speaking that I do. So, so you can kind of see why I sort of washed my hands of the whole thing years ago, because I just got really frustrated.
You also can go back 10 years. So I don't know how far you have to go back to get into time where you were getting paid for kind of more speaking. But to your point, training.
I'm sure mute.
Linda, you just muted yourself somehow.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go. You're back.
Yeah, I got a phone call coming in from my Safari travel agent. Sorry, should turn it off, but oh well. So yeah, it's not about training versus keynoting. It is understanding how many people need to be in the training,
Right.
and then backing up to to track that if it's worth doing, Laura, and you're the only one who can go, you know what, maybe there were 7 times there were 15 people and it's just going to be too much trouble. But if it's enough, it might be worth doing. And you have a team, somebody on your team could go pull that together. No? Yes.
Or you could hire a whole bunch of new people and backdate their contracts 10 years. And just say they were there.
But just think of the support you're going to have with this CSP group now. See?
I
Yep.
must admit, so Bill's got me thinking, I'm going, okay, there's normally 13. Isn't there somebody else on staff that would benefit from this training that we don't
Yeah, come
usually
on,
include?
Bob
And
was,
it's
now that I think
someone-
about it, I'm pretty sure Bob was there, and
No, I wasn't gonna lie about who was there, Bill. I'm thinking about going forward. Let's get what she's
well,
doing.
that's because you're a
going
CPA
forward.
and I'm just a humble joke writer, so, you know,
No, it's because you got the E and I don't. I'm just saying.
there's that.
Well, I have all my meeting agendas that literally say they're all dated, they all correlate to my calendar. They
Of
all
course,
list
because you're an organizer.
every single attendee, because you know what, that's what I do for a living.
But
Yeah,
are you
and
telling
now,
me that
now
the
it's
number-
now it's come back to haunt you, hasn't it?
but the
Yeah.
number is the number really under 15 all the time?
Most of the time.
Okay.
Well, we
Well-
don't know that the number is still 15. I mean, COVID
Yeah,
changed
that's fair.
everything,
That
Right.
first.
so we don't know. And yeah, you're right, Laura. Ask the committee. Ask them. You know, again, yours is a special circumstance. Here's the thing, though. In the past several years, like in the past 5 years, the committee has been getting so many special circumstances. They're kind of used to it now. It used to be like if you got a special circumstance, they would just go, no. You have to be a keynoter. Like, well, no, that's kind of changed now. So you know, your situation is unique, but it ain't that unique to them anymore. They've heard things like this before, so they will likely have a quicker answer.
Well, and back when I was on CSP council, it never came to the council. The staff person decided that was it.
Yeah.
There was not a next step. So that's obviously a change now as well.
Okay, well, let's see.
Can I
We've
ask you
got-
another question?
Yeah, please jump in.
So I mean, well,
Go ahead.
I mean, I just have to be careful what I say right now because there's people in my office.
Oh.
But let's just say hypothetically that Eliminate Chaos disappeared.
Mm, mm.
And it's just back to me like speaking, right? So I have a lot less responsibility, hypothetically.
Mhm.
And so I have actually been considering doing, I don't know if it's career track or something else, but I thought, could I just go do that and like boost up like really quickly the amount of talks that I'm doing? Because I look at those companies and I've taken some of their seminars on productivity and workplace organization. I'm just like, oh my gosh. I mean, this would be a walk in the park.
Mhm.
I mean, it'd be a lot of travel. Yeah, it'd be kind of, but you know what? I might have a lot of time on my hands. So
And
I
those would
don't know.
count.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah, those would count for 2 reasons. Well, one, because you're being paid by Career Track or whoever it is now
Yeah,
it's that's doing that. And then you also sell back to the room, although that does not become your money, that becomes their money. But still, yeah, that would count.
Here's the
that's
challenge.
that's
I
how a
see.
lot of people got. Beg pardon?
The challenge I see is you need your 50,000 a year. So are you really willing to commit to 5 years of doing that? Or do you have another way to do some of the other years so that maybe you only need a year or 2 because you got something
Right.
else going on for the other 3. So I'd have to understand, am I making a 5-year commitment to this particular path? Laura, it would work. It's just whether you want to do it or not.
well, I don't think I would need to do it for 5 years.
Mhm.
Because you already have other years that have 50,000 speaking.
Or there could be, yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh. So, I mean, there's just a lot I have to figure out. And I wasn't even gonna be here today because I was supposed to be on a project and got it done early. So I thought, well, I'm going to hop on, but I haven't spent the time to go back and research what the qualifications are. But I do track all my stuff in an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, I don't know why I don't do e-speakers. I have it, I don't really use it, but I do put it into my spreadsheet every time after I've spoken, so that, you know, I can remember, and then I can go back and do whatever paperwork they need later on. So I have some of that done.
I
Well,
will
I
say that, yeah, you can do all kinds of things to get the CSP. If it's going to make you absolutely miserable for a year or two, I don't mean just like, oh, doing the paperwork's hard, but I mean, like, if it's going to change your lifestyle to the point like this is the CSP is not worth that. I mean, don't do that.
No.
Just to get the medal, just to get the CSP. The CSP is a great thing to have. We've already told you about some of the benefits. But it's not worth risking your health, your relationships, your, you know, and your well-being over.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
The other thing I think I would do as a first step for probably all of you is I would decide, and this, you know, Denise can help you pair up, but I would go, you know, what if you could identify somebody else who's kind of the stage you're at? There's 4 of you here, pair them up and make some decisions about, okay, in the next month, I'm going to get 2023 so far in, right? I'm going to
That's
see
good.
actually where
That's
I
good.
stand. And then, and maybe it's the next month, I'm actually going to understand all the rules. That could be it. But set some parameters so you can get close enough to know how hard will this be, or will I be surprised that I'm in better shape? Like Celine, what if we could take your 4,500, divide by your 7 weeks, and that's, you know, 7, you know, presentations instead of 1? How could we do that? And John, how do you figure out what stuff you've already done and what can be applied to that? What if you found out that actually you're only 1 year away, because all that corporate stuff, you've got it already jammed in? So I would make that my first step. I actually was the person that Bill Staten contacted as he thought he was close, but not there. And do you remember I looked at your Excel sheet and went, you're right, you're not there.
Right. Yeah. I do
You know
remember
what,
that.
Linda, to your point, I met a gal at Thrive. Her name's Selena, I think Perlman. Denise, I don't know if you met her there, but so we went to the Power Woman lunch and I walked back with her. And so we had this long conversation. And she was telling me at lunch how she said, I wonder if they're going to announce the new class of CSPs here. And this was her first conference that she went to Influence last summer. Then she came to Thrive, but she's only been an NSA for a year. And so she's one of those that, you know, had done enough speaking in her corporate days where she joined NSA and she met the qualifications.
Right.
But to a point that someone made earlier, I thought that it was really fascinating about the CSP club is that she said when she went to NSA last summer and people found out that she was a first-time attendee and a new NSA member, she said the way I was treated was horrible. She goes, I almost didn't come back. And she goes, I have a PhD. I've been speaking for a long time and I speak on organizational behavior. And I'm like,
yeah, we're terrible about that.
How about that? And I said, I'm sorry you had that experience. I know, you know, that's happens to a lot of people. And then I saw, you know, it got posted on Facebook that she got her CSP. And I'm like, you know, good for you, because you can show all of those people that you can come in and be an NSA for a year and still conquer that.
So when I was on the CSP council, frankly, we said that at every one of our meetings. New to NSA does not mean new to speaking.
Yeah.
And so that particular group was really clear that we don't want to assume somebody who's only been in NSA a year is only a year in speaking. And several of you on this call, you're not new to speaking. You're not, you may be new to marketing your own business of speaking. So there may be some piece of this that you're getting your mind wrapped around. Does not mean you are new to speaking. And that does happen, Laura, but there's a lot of people that don't do that. And the unfortunate thing is what you remember is the people that did make you feel that way. Only takes one or two of them, whereas you may not even have noticed that some of the other people did not make those assumptions.
Yeah.
But you're
So,
right, Laura. NSA gets a bad rap for that, both on a local level. I don't mean this chapter necessarily, but NSA's been known, like I said, is for being cliquish, and we do have a bad reputation. And unfortunately, it's somewhat justified for treating newbies as if they're kind of like, oh well, you just sit at the kids' table and learn from the grown-ups, and the kids' table might be full of PhD billionaires who just are new to NSA. They may not be new to speaking, or even if they are new to speaking, they've got a lifetime of experience. Where we need to be better at that.
For what it's worth, I
Go
did
ahead,
not
Dan.
encounter that experience joining the Northwest chapter.
Good.
It was actually the reason why I wanted to get so involved, is because I really enjoyed my experience meeting everyone.
I think it was probably more back when Linda and I were president. I think it's gotten a lot better since then.
Well, and I'm going to push back a little bit, because at National Speakers Association, once you have been going for a while, you are getting back together with close friends.
Once you've been going for a while, yes.
And we do a really good job of helping people develop that. And then we give them a hard time for wanting to connect with their close friends and people that they really know what they do. And I was kind of pushing back at that whole click thing when I was there. It was like, wait a minute, if we really help people facilitate developing close relationships with other people in the same field that they only see twice a year here at NSA, then we really can't beat them over the head for then spending time with the people that we've been able to create. So most of us, Bill, I'm sure is in the same category. When I was involved a lot, I had to go out of my way to be sure that I reached out to people that maybe I didn't know, because truly I wanted to spend some time with Laura. I wanted to spend some time with Bill, right? I had a question about producing that Bill would know, or so the very thing that creates the strength of NSA long-term can feel daunting to the people that come at the beginning. And I remember wanting to go back to my room because I just didn't know anybody. Right. So I get that. But it's a very interesting balancing act to really help the relationship piece without being the whole click routine.
All right, team.
My biggest advice is to make a plan, partner up. And in fact, Jan Dwyer, I actually went to her house. She had her calendar. I'm at the computer, and I sat there and put stuff in. This is before eSpeaker stuff. I sat there and put it in. And then when the application was due, her printer was going too slow, and she wasn't going to make it to the PO, the post office, in time. So I'm on the internet looking for another post office that's going to be open later, hearing her printer going ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. And she had to drive all the way to SeaTac, was the last place she got. That's there with
a long time ago.
Not a good example.
Go. So working together really, it just helps.
It does help. Yeah. And feel free to, as this thing comes to a close and wraps up, Linda and I are accessible. You've got our emails, or if not, they're easy to find. Feel free to reach out anytime.
So Linda.
Yes.
Earlier on, I think maybe Denise brought this up, and you were going to share some ideas of how to get additional presentations. Did we talk about that? And I didn't hear it.
That idea of that was 6 presentations, not just 2.
Oh, that was that. Okay.
Different audiences, different topics.
Yeah.
Not only do I count it right, but then once I knew the rule, I even looked for opportunities, like doing the extra breakouts or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is a good thing that Linda said. I hope that didn't just kind of go off into the ether. As you're looking for your CSP, if somebody books you for a keynote, say, hey, listen, why don't I do a keynote and a breakout? You can even do it for the same price. And let's say you get $5,000 for both. Okay, that's a $2,500 keynote and a $2,500 breakout. Okay, but that's 2 gigs. That's 2 paid gigs. So you could be a little proactive about that and say, look, I've got a special thing. I'm going for a certification in order to do this. One of the requirements is a certain number of presentations. So you can be the beneficiary of that. Yes, I'll be happy to do your keynote, or I'll be happy to do the breakout you want me to. Why don't I do a second one? As long as I'm going to be there anyway, why don't I do a second one? And you can charge them a little more or not charge them a little more, but it's a win-win. They get more content out of you, and you get 2 gigs that you can count toward your CSP.
Denise, there was one more thing I wanted to share. Brian Walters did this amazingly. As you're starting to look back to make sure your records are great, this is an amazing marketing opportunity for you.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting back to these folks and saying, hey, I'm working on the highest designation of the National Speakers Association, et cetera. We did something a couple of years back. Want to just confirm all that. And by the way, right? And now you're connected with them again. They know you're doing something that's important in your industry, and you're having a really good reason to have a conversation.
And once you get the CSP, it's a great reason to reach back. Because one, you're also going to need to provide NSA. I think one of the requirements is like with at least 20 people that they can reach out to, previous clients.
Yes.
So then you reach back to those people and say, once you get the CSP, hey, thank you because of your help, whether it's one of those 20 people or anybody you've ever worked for. Hey, because of your impact in my career, I've achieved this designation. Thank you so much. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Here's what I'm doing now, whatever. Yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity to reach back to previous clients.
And as you talk to them with that first reach back, you can say, by the way, there'll be some kind of evaluation process at the end. Can I put your name in as someone who would do that? And now you've given them a compliment, but also when you put that name in, they're already primed for it.
Right.
They're not, what the heck is this?
Really good idea.
Really great ideas. Well, I think the purpose of our special interest work group is to be working together so that we're not alone working on our CSP, and figure out what works for all of us is some kind of a cadence. It doesn't mean we still can't talk offline, or call Linda directly, or Bill, or John, or Celine, Laura, Ron, some of the other characters that weren't able to attend today. I think based on what you said, Linda, I think it would be a good next step for everyone to really familiarize yourself with the criteria, because it is very spelled out on the website, and then make those individual calls. I think, Celine, John, Laura, myself, all of us would probably benefit from really looking at our situation and perhaps making a call and making sure that we understand, and then try and identify our 10-year period or our 5-year, and just see where we are, see how close we are on presentations and dollars. And maybe that's all we need to do before we meet again, is just get our heads around this. Because what I love about getting started is none of us are there yet, but it allows us to be way more proactive. And just like Bill's suggestion, hey, I'm going to book a keynote. Why not a keynote and a breakout? If I wasn't thinking CSP and a hash mark, I might not have been thinking that way. So I think that's the power of the prepared mind, that it could take us a couple of years to get organized and have everything ready for the CSP. And we may all move at different paces. So when we were talking to Paul,
I think somebody on this call is going to be surprised at how much closer they are than they thought they were.
Completely agree.
Find out.
Completely agree.
Lay it out. One nice homework could actually be, we've had some very specific questions on this call. The next time you guys have a call, come back with the answers. Come back with the answer of your question, and then share it with everybody.
And share it with everybody. If we do that, first of all, with the group, does that sound like what you wanted to join as a special interest work group for your CSP? Is this what you want to continue to do, is try and move along together as a small group?
When were you thinking of meeting, Denise?
I didn't have anything in my mind. I was really open to finding out what you you three plus Ron and the others, and then of course we can invite Linda and Bill, or you can always come. I didn't have anything in my mind, Laura.
What's your recommendation, Laura?
Oh, well, I was just kind of curious for like timing wise in my calendar. That's all. I'm always thinking about what's already on it and if I can commit to something.
What are you thinking, John and Celine? How often? Or at least get started. We can always change it, but when to get back together again?
I want to spend my time to work on getting to square one before committing to this one here.
Do you need 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks,
2 months?
2 months?
3 months?
3 months?
Yeah. Let me get back in touch with you because I'm looking at the requirements and I have to move myself from 0 to 1. Then I know I could be on that path. So.
Okay. What are you thinking, John? How much time do you need to just get a sense of where you are? Oh, I think you're still muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna have to look back. I think it'll probably 3 months probably is 2 to 3 months is probably a good estimate for me. I wouldn't say hold up the series for me necessarily, but I'm gonna have to dig through everything I've done before this from a corporate perspective. I will say, like, I should have looked at the requirements before we got on the call today, and then I was perusing through them, and I overwhelmed. I think was the descriptor for how I was feeling after I saw what the requirements were. Now the good thing is like I'm just getting going now on this, so like I've got some time. I think what I'm going to be using this interaction for, like the special interest group for, is helping me get organized, plan, and figure out the good news is that I know what the requirements are now, so I can plan more effectively rather than having to unwind stuff that maybe I had done in the past. So yeah, 2 to 3 months is probably a good time frame for me to really look back. But I've got a long ways to go.
Can I make a suggestion, Denise?
Yes, please.
I'm hearing a consensus around 3 months, so I would say make it 2 months. Because make it slightly less time than you think you need. Because 3 months you can be lazy. 2 months is a slight bit of urgency if you're serious about this. And in 2 months you might get back together and go like, you know what? I don't think it's for me. Or but 2 months, it's a substantial amount of time, but there's also a little bit of urgency. With 3 months, what'll happen is you'll completely forget about it, and all of a sudden the day will come and you go, oh crap, really? It's today? Oh, I'm not gonna go. So I've always found, I mean, my whole thing, you know, what I speak about is innovation, creativity, breakthrough thinking. And one of my pieces of advice I always give people is, if you're working with a team and you want creative ideas, give them a little less time and a little less money than they really need. And that's how you get things. So I want you to have a little bit of fire under you. Because yes, it does seem overwhelming. It was that way for Linda. It was that way for me. The advantage that you all have that we didn't have is that you've got this. I mean, you've got a community. Prior to Zoom and things like that, getting your CSP was a really lonely, solitary, grueling thing to do, and we went through it. You've got the advantage. I mean, it's, you know, through e-speakers. They make it so much easier if you're using e-speakers, and the fact that you've got other people who are at least interested. Doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get it. Doesn't mean that it necessarily matches your business model. You don't necessarily know that now, but you've got a group of people. So I would say schedule another meeting for 2 months and then see how it goes. One meeting is not enough to make a decision on.
No, I think all of us have to be a little more aware of our own situation before we want to commit to even getting the CSP.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, that was brought up. So
let me throw one more. I'm going to be quiet. If it's in 2 months, it sounded like people thought they had to go back and do all this back channel work before that. I don't think so at all. I think if in 2 months you understand better how the requirements fit your circumstance, and then maybe you just get 1 year figured out. or 6 months figured out. Make it a small enough goal that you can do it and get started, rather than thinking, wow, I would have to have all 10 years or all 5 years or 2 years. You don't. Pick something small enough you actually can do it, and make it a priority to understand how the CSP fits your model and whether it'll work. And that would be a great
Good advice.
accomplishment before the
That'd
next
be plenty.
meeting.
Well, I'm going to send out the video link to those that missed. We had about 4 that signed up additional. So I'll send that out, and then I will put a couple of dates out there for June to see what works the best for everyone. And we'll get something booked in June and set those clear expectations. Make sure you call the committee or the staff person and get your specific questions answered, and then bring them back to the group. And then take a look and just find out which, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at my calendar and figure out what has been my life the last 10 years. Oh, that's so interesting. And then I'm going to focus on, well, which 5 am I going to use? And I might decide, I'm going to use the last 3, and then I'm going to work on this for 2 years. That's all the farther I want to get. So maybe that helps you building. It's exactly what Linda just said. Let's just ease in and figure out, make ourselves smarter.
And if you cannot get a decent answer to your specific question, come back and tell Bill and I.
Yeah,
Because
we can slap some people around.
yeah.
All right.
We know people.
All right. Well, I will include you two, Linda and Bill, on our journey. Thank you so much for going before us, for not only sharing with us today, but I know your fingerprints are on this material that's on the website, and it is very well done. It's very clear. So I can tell that you've been in there. So thank you, thank you. Thank you to Celine and Laura and John and Ron that were with us today, and those that missed. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. So I'll send out an email, and we will see you in June.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.